Recognizing the member for Abbotsford West.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. And, how to respond? To begin, to thank the House itself for its kindness today in affording me this opportunity. To the opposition House Leader Todd, I remember that by-election, obviously. I remember pushing you around in a stroller. To my friend across the way with whom I have shared more conversations, negotiations, thank you for the kindness you have shown through the years and for the remarks today. To other members of the government, senior members of the cabinet, Mr. Premier, these are busy days for any government, and thank you for affording me the honor of being here, and of course my colleagues, and I'll come to that. I do want to say to members who have otherwise spoken and are departing, the only thing that distinguishes me from you is having hung around a little longer. We are all, those of us who are departing, doing so voluntarily. That is not always the case in this place. Someone asked me, Madam Chair, well, do you get something? I said, well, you get the tremendous satisfaction. No, do you get something? Like, do you get some kind of long-term? And I suppose it's a bit inappropriate for me to be talking about swag and rewards at a time like this. But I'm frugal, and merchandise is so I don't. I had a nice plaque at 20 years, and some of you probably got one of those. I'll put it on the record. I have my eye on that wood splitter, Madam Chair. I don't know where it is, and I don't think it would be missed.
That's fun.
Do you remember your first day? Every one of us. Do you remember the awe you felt coming up the stairs for the first time and looking at this place, and probably mindful of some of the history of the buildings of this room, the days of Bennett and Barrett, and even beyond that, Patello's and McBride's. We don't have actual memories of those, but the place that steeped in the history of this place, I certainly do. And I have to tell you honestly, it feels like it was yesterday. I remember virtually every aspect of that day. I remember driving over here with Isabel. Yes, in the Miata. We pulled in, and I got a parking ticket that day. I don't know how that happened, but I did get a parking ticket. We came here. My parents were here. They came over. It was 30 years ago. My mom's here today, 96. Going to be 96. She's here. My sister Pat makes sure that all of her travel needs. She's like an EA now. She's makes sure all the travel needs are looked after. Pat, thank you. And my brother Rick came down. He's a counselor up in West Kelowna. So it's great. It's great to have them here, and sitting amongst them, my roommate from law school, Cam Hope. And someone talked about hockey. He's the executive director for BC Hockey, and he's going to rejig my draft eligibility. I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. Yes, I was wearing the same suit, same tie, with the lapels that would make Don Cherry blush. Yes. Right? So how do you summarize in time available passage of 30 years? I don't think it's for me to talk about achievements. Others can decide whether there were. I hope there were. I think there were. But maybe I could take a moment, Madam Speaker, just to talk about some of the people that I have encountered here. and some of the things that they have taught me along the way. People, I have to first, I think, acknowledge the people in my hometown, the people of Abbotsford West, before that Abbotsford Mount Lehman, before that Matsqui. And we've heard from my friend those remarkable days in the end of 93, 94, a by-election. You know what? One of the first teachers I had was a lady named Grace McCarthy. And she taught me a lesson that I'm sure she didn't want to teach, because it's fun to be on the winning side of a 42 vote decision. She taught me this can be a very unjust vocation. And sometimes being in the right place at the right time has as much to do with where you end up than any particular skill you bring to the equation. And she was an icon, an irrepressible, well, a matron of BC politics. People in Abbotsford took a chance in 94, and I hope they consider that chance was, in retrospect, warranted, but I am grateful for them, and they have overlooked a lot of flaws and a lot of mistakes along the way, but have stood with me and provided me with the honor to come here year after year, election after election, and I am very grateful to them for that. And they have been served by this remarkable individual who's also in the gallery, named Linda Palak, who for over 2 of those decades has provided service to families, and I dare say helped save people's lives. When we are here engaged in the cut and thrust, and dare I say it, the fun of debate, Linda and people like her, but in my case, Linda, are there attending to the crises that descend upon families. And she has done so faithfully and with dedication. And to say that I am grateful diminishes what I think the community would feel, Linda, for the work that you have done on their behalf over the years. Thank you. Beside her, behind her, Louise, who got me addicted to coffee in my first ministerial position, sits as a receptionist and teaches each and every day the importance of meeting people with a smile, engaging with them, because however bad our day is, there's a pretty good chance their day is a little bit worse. And she does that for us and with us each and every day. You've heard about, thank you, Louise, you've heard about Luella from my colleague Renee. What an apt description for a remarkable lady who juggles so many responsibilities over so with panache, with good humor. Lou, thank you, thank you, thank you. Over the years I've been here, I think about the ministerial staff when we were fortunate enough to be on that side of the house, people like Brian Menzies and Dave Sear and Mario Miniaci and Marty Snyder, Melissa and Little M, all people that contributed to whatever success we could boast as individuals. And of course, the irrepressible Miss P, who I think everyone in this chamber is acquainted with and certainly acquainted with now. I won't, she would not want me to go on and repeat all of the things that Todd, our House Leader, has said about her, but they are so incredibly true. And in a place that is deserving of respect, she sets the example. She sets the benchmark for the reverence that one should have for this assembly and this chamber. Not to say that there isn't a place for change, but to do so in a thoughtful way, mindful of what this chamber represents. There's a time-honored tradition, Madam Chair, in this chamber at times like this to, if you want them to pay attention, you say something nice about the media. This is the part where I read. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I have to tell you that my experience has been exceedingly positive. You get to know some of these people, like Vaughn Palmer. He is the dean. He follows in the footsteps of a Bruce Hutchinson, and storied amongst political commentators in Canada. Les Lane, who has taught me about lawn tennis, but toils on behalf of his readers faithfully, and he has throughout the time that I've been here. Keith Baldry, of course, started writing and is still a mainstay, and his colleague Richard Zussman. So we remember those people, and I thank them for the work they do, because their business has changed so dramatically. When I arrived here, we actually talked about deadlines. We thought, oh, well, they have to file by a certain time. If they don't file immediately, they're old news. And how that has changed, and don't worry, I'm not going to give anyone a lecture about technology, but how that has changed the work they do, and how that competition now exists with anyone with an electronic device who wants to call themselves a journalist. And it has put a tremendous amount of pressure and changed the economics of the world of the media. So I am grateful for the friendships that they have taught me. I left one name out, and it's not an insignificant name, because I actually thought about asking Rob Shaw to deliver this speech for me. You know, when I approached him about that possibility yesterday, he said, no, that prospect of that troubled him. So he opted not to do it. To the legislative staff, Robert, thank you. Thank you and your team, Paul and the others. All of you will know there are moments in this chamber when a gentle nudge or a wink can mean the world. And these are people who serve us in this capacity here, but who have themselves served our country in different capacities in the past. And we are, all of us, I think, tremendously grateful. And I have come to know them and their colleagues over the years, and very grateful for that. Hansard, who have to listen to us, and over the years have been incredibly kind to me in terms of correcting things that I've said or deleting things that I've said. I see Jason, who is a faithful adherent of these debates and reminds us constantly, but certainly once a year, that there is an importance attached to the collegiality of this place, and that links us together. And Madam Clerk, we arrived about the same time. I think you are still nearer the beginning of your career than the end. And to you and your staff, I thank you for the years of advice and willingness to engage, and your friendliness and wealth of knowledge that you dispense to all of us in the chamber. If I can, Madam Chair, a few words about some of the other people that I have encountered here. I'll start with the leaders. Not all the leaders became premiers, but they were still leaders. I got here, Mike Harcourt was the premier. Dignity. You know, another example of what can happen. A leader, though I disagreed with many of the things his government advanced, a leader who was ultimately undone, really at the end of the day, by a scandal that was beyond his control, that he was not answerable for, but was ultimately answerable for. Glenn Clark. I think of Glenn Clark, I think of the confidence the confidence of a young man who became premier as a young man, and then went on to display an affinity for capitalism that none of us really knew existed. and to achieve great results in that regard. Dan Miller. Now, Dan Miller combined a modesty with a tactical genius, and he taught me something that I never forgot around this place. In the cut and thrust of the debates and discussions we have, especially when you are in government, you are sometimes dealt a pair of twos. Because it's tough sometimes. And when you got a pair of twos, don't pretend you got a full house. Because you might get away with it once, but you won't get away with it a second time. And Dan Miller understood that, and was happy to convey that to me. Ujjal Dosanjh became premier. I think of the courage he demonstrated before he was in politics and while he was in politics. It could not have been easy. Whatever our partisan instincts were and competitiveness, it could not have been easy going into the 2001 election campaign. I'm sensing agreement from at least one member of the Assembly. And yet he performed his duties and went on to perform other duties on behalf of the country. And in the aftermath of that, Joy MacPhail, who came to this place as part of an opposition of two, and by any measure displayed an ability, a respect, a loyalty to the processes of this chamber in the most extraordinarily difficult circumstances you can imagine. But she did it. And earned, I think, respect from all quarters. She did it with a colleague, Jenny Kwan. I'm not forgetting that, but I may meet Jenny later in another setting, and so I'm going to be a little bit cautious about heaping too much praise on her. I'm kidding, of course. And then I met two premiers that I worked with. Gordon Campbell, driven. A driven individual who had a vision. Some people agreed with the vision, many people did, many people didn't. But he was driven to realize on a vision to affect change, to affect what he saw as improvement. And after Gordon Campbell, Christy Clark, who possessed this irrepressible optimism and affection for people, who could light up a room and can still light up a room unlike any other. And the thing they both had in common, in a very personal way, is they had the confidence, perhaps bad judgment, to provide me with an opportunity to partake in public service at levels I never would have dreamed possible when my parents brought me here as a 10-year-old. And for that, I am incredibly grateful, Madam Speaker. One vainly hopes that one had a positive impact along the way. Again, others can render their judgment in that respect. John Horrigan drew on a humanity that helped British Columbia through a very difficult time, and was able to convey that humanity in a way that a lot of people doubted, and yet was able to do so in a way that was important for that period of time. And the present Premier, on whose shoulders the weight of responsibility now rests. And though the debates in this chamber center on oppositions emphasizing the shortcomings, critiquing the negativity, understand that anyone who has been involved in government at this level, at the local level, understands that governing is hard. It's a hard thing to do. And that old adage about pick your poison reveals itself often on a daily basis. And to the people that I see and hear and will continue to hear from who heap derision on governments, I can tell you I have no hesitation in telling them, yeah, but someone's got to do it. And we have a process for selecting who is going to do it. There are members of the cabinet that I have come to know, some over a period of time. The Minister of Health is here, the Minister of Forests, the Minister of Finance, with whom I have worked, and her now departed husband, Leonard. You create a relationship that sort of transcends time. And I hope that when I say that I have found these people, you to be worthy adversaries, which I think in this place is probably the highest form of praise you can offer, is that you have been worthy adversaries. And I hope in my own way that I have been equally worthy. I noticed, by the way, he'll pick this up in my chapter 3 of my book, but Nanaimo, North Cowichan was here a few moments ago, Madam Speaker, and I think it was about probably 20 years ago. I labeled a former member from Merritt by the name of Harry Lally as the member for Harry Rosen. I have decided that on my way out the door, I am going to label the member for North Cowichan the member for Dodds Furniture. And of course, my friend from Coquitlam, Mike Farnworth. Port Coquitlam. I'll get it right one day. You are the remaining link with the 20th century, my friend. You are the remaining link with the 20th century. Over 12 years, we worked together as House leaders, and there were two things that I reflect upon fondly, and he mentioned one of them, and that is the degree to which we could convey information back and forth honestly, reliably, and with respect. And I think it made this chamber a good place, maybe even a better place. And the second thing I reflect upon in those 12 years is that I spent the majority of them on that side of the house, but that is a bit self-serving on my part. The opposition benches. The third party, we became acquainted in 2017 in rather unusual circumstances. And they too perform a very difficult task with a caucus of two. But I remember those discussions and negotiations that took place, and upon which depended the outcome of an entire election and who was going to form government. And they were, for us, obviously difficult. I say the BC Liberal Party at the time, difficult. But the Green Party had to choose a partner with whom to dance, and just like most of my high school career, they didn't choose me. And as they say, the rest is history. But they have grown to become, I think, very respected members of this chamber, parliamentarians worthy of respect. And there's a fourth party. Look, the worst battles in history tend to be civil wars. I don't know if there's a negotiation or what that would look like, and I won't be involved. But it is, well, who knows? Who knows what will emerge in the weeks and months ahead. But one can speculate and remain hopeful. And the independent members who toil in a fairly lonely way from their, but are no less committed. And there are independent members today, and I have known independent members over the course of my time here. And they bring the same, I have found, the same level of commitment and the same concern for their constituents, but are asked to present that without the benefit of the collegiality and the resources that the rest of us enjoy as larger parties or opposition parties or government. And then of course, my colleagues in the official opposition, for whom I have had the great pleasure of toiling these past number of years, these past 7 years. It does seem like a thankless job, doesn't it? Many days. And it is inherently negative. It is by definition negative. And when you're not a negative person, that's difficult. And yet, in many cases, that is the task we have, is to point out the shortcomings, is to point out alternatives. And you have gone about that. Some of you I have known a long time. I have worked with in government, Todd and Ben, and of course, Shirley. I'll go to my grave with your finger pointing at me. You know, I think of the bruising and the cuts and the attacks, and then you leave caucus to come into the chamber to do it. But let me just offer this. We serve a vitally important purpose and role in this parliamentary democracy. And I know we say that, and we go, well, that's fine. I wish we didn't have to serve the role for as long. I've done it for 14 years, as Michael has pointed out. It represents a form of apprenticeship. I have no doubt that to the extent anyone thinks the government I was a part of served some useful purpose, that it was a better government because of the time that group spent in opposition. And even our friends across the way will, in their quiet moments, concede no one governs forever. Happily, in a democracy, no one governs forever. So think of this as that apprenticeship, however long it might last. Maybe I've worked with another premier. We will know when the people decide to tell us later this year. So, lastly, you've been very kind. I mentioned my family. Mom, everything I have, everything I am, got from you and Dad. It's remarkable that you're here 30 years on. When we get home, we're going to pour some more cement and do some other work around the farm. Isabel, you have weathered the demands of this job. Everyone in this chamber knows what that represents, and you have been there every step of the way. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. My brother and sister, whose older brother has quite frequently not been there for them, but have understood and never complained. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. So it's time to say goodbye. It's time to get out of this suit. Get into the Miata, the same car, the same girl. Head on down the highway. This place, this garden of democracy, folks, I have been incredibly lucky to have the gardening tools for 30 years. Now it's up to you. Democratic garden needs tending. The flower of democracy is fragile. It's up to you to keep it healthy. I know you will. Goodbye. Good luck.